Hey everybody, it's Bob from Paw Productions again. Last video we did on using your prep food items, we showed you how you could make some corn fritters, more or less, from some corn that was ground up to make a flour. Right here, this is the mill we talked about. It's just a basic Corona style mill. They run anywhere from 10 to 20 bucks. You can find them anywhere. They're not the best, but they work. If you don't have any other mill, if you don't have another mill right now, and you have, all your preps, instead of not having one at all, for 15, 20 bucks, pick one of these up. Can always serve as a backup, and they do work. Not the best, but they do work. Last show, we showed you the corn that we ground and how it looked. I got some samples out here in the front. You can I'll show them to you in a little bit. But I ground up 3 different types of prep items. I ground up beans, corn, and rice. Now people are going to ask, why are you going to grind up beans and why are you going to grind up rice? Well, if it can be ground up and put into a powder form, it can be used to make anything from a paste to thicken up soups and chilies, to even making breads out of. How do you think they make rice milk or refried beans per se? But anyway, besides wheat and corn, you can grind up other food items to cook with. So we're going to show you that. Basically, the way the mill works is it's got a standard hand crank right here. It's got an adjustment on the front here that adjusts the 2 grinding discs closer, farther apart, and then disassembly is pretty simple. It's got 2 butterfly bolts here. This whole front comes off. It's got a butterfly bolt on the back of the handle here, which actually the handle comes off then, and then the actual auger will come out. So it's pretty simple to clean, pretty simple to use. It takes a little bit of time to get used to, where you have to adjust this to play a fit. I'm going to grind up some beans for you real quick, just to kind of give you an idea of what it'll do on its first pass through. These samples down here I ground through 2 or 3 times, and I'll show you those and explain that. So let me get to grinding up these beans and show everybody how these things work. Basically, see, it's regular old pinto beans. Put some in there. I'm going to hold my hand here for a reason. You don't have to. This actually turns, but because these beans and like the corn that I used, or I should talk about here in a minute, it's a little bit harder. So when you go to grind it, unlike wheat or regular whole corn, it'll actually fling everywhere. So I'm going to hold my hand here just to keep it, from going all over the kitchen. But this will be the first pass through. You'll be able to Alright, this is about typical for a first pass. I don't know if you can see it. It's pretty floury still, but it's still kind of gritty. You can see the big chunks in there. You could sift these out if you wanted to, and get without having to go 2 or 3 runs through the grinder with it. Like I said, these mills like this aren't exactly made for powder fine flour, but I'll pass it through one more time so you can kind of get an idea of what 2 passes look through. You also don't want to start this down on your as tight as it'll go when you first start out. That's why I'm saying 2 passes, 3 passes through, because if you do, it's going to work you really hard. And if you've never had to grind anything up before, well, after a while it will wear you out if you're not used to it, or you're not not used to grinding away on junk. So As you can see now, it's a lot more flour-like than before. 2-3 passes, I mean, this stuff right here, it's good to go probably as it is if you were to use it. As you can see, it's still got some chunks and everything in there, but compared to when it the first run, it's still pretty flourly. Alright. Let me grab the camera here and show you exactly what everything looks like when it's done. Right here is the rice. As you can see, this is where how it started, this is how it ended up. It's still really gritty though. It's almost like a thick cornmeal. This is popping corn, or popcorn, whatever you want to call it. This is 3 passes through. Alright? Still really gritty. You're not going to be able to make perfect cornbread per se with any of this stuff. I mean, you can, but it'd probably be wise to let it soak. This stuff is really hard to grind. Some of the other grinders, the better ones out there, actually tell you, you know, they recommend that it's not for corn. You know, you could do the whole corn in them because it's a lot softer. I mean, it's a world of difference doing whole corn compared to popcorn. Those people on the boards, on the internet, or everywhere else, they're saying they're storing popcorn to grind it. I suggest you try it with your mill before you just count on having it done. This is why it's important to use your equipment and to use your preps. That way you know how they're going to perform when you need them. And these are the beans. It's the same thing like we just did. So, but anyway, that's your basic Corona mill. Put in food, grind it up, wham, instant flour-like product. Just keep using your preps, guys. If you got anything you've never used before, you need to use it. You need to figure out how you're going to use it and how you're going to cook it. You know, last time we talked about recipes and everything. Like I said, some people are going to be like, well, why is he doing the beans and rice? Well, there's recipes out there. I mean, think about the cook time involved. Having to cook up something like this. While it's not exactly tasty sounding per se, but if it takes 5 minutes to cook up some bean paste compared to 2 or 3 hours cook time on a pot of beans that that's 15, you've stored for 15 years, and everybody says the longer they store, the harder they are to cook. This could be a way for you to be able to still use those and not have wasted preps. Same thing with all your other stuff. You know, you can turn around if your wheat or your other grains for making flour are running low. You can supplement it with some of this. Besides that, nutrients and everything, it's also supplementing your other preps. The one way to find out some recipes for this is I got a book. It's not my book, but one I found. And I said earlier to check out for thrift stores and stuff. You can find some really good cookbooks. This one's by Gene Hewitt. It's called a Natural Foods Cookbook. It came out in the 70s, and it's full of everything. Pretty much, almost if you got it in your prep items, it's how to cook it in there. A lot of the older cookbooks are like that because they're geared towards self-producing families. You know, people that canned. Grocery stores, weren't exactly what they were, back then as to Super Wally Marts today. So, research, test and use your gear, test and use your prep foods, cook, train, use, and use. Well, I'm Bob from Paw Productions. I hope that answered some of the questions on the grain mill that everybody, was asking about. And, like I said, keep the comments coming. We like them. And stay tuned for some more videos from us. And remember to check out our affiliate site, survivalreport.net with Robert Henry. I'm Bob from Paw. Have a good day.